Man, you guys are getting crazy with these gifts. Anyways, BouseFeenux here with a brand new video, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. So I was sitting in my Lisette looking through my primary weapons, and I got to thinking about which ones I never really see people using or talking about, and after reading through my comments, I got the feeling that a video covering some underrated weapons would be pretty well received. Now, just to clarify, these aren't weapons I think are bad, I just think that they're underused. So if your favorite weapon shows up on this list, remember that this is a subjective view based on my opinion. And that being said, I present to you 5 underrated primary weapons in Warframe. The first weapon in our little roundup is pretty much hands down my favorite primary weapon in Warframe. The Brayton Prime sounds good, looks good, and kills good. It's basically the AR-15 of the Warframe universe. Now, I know this is a well-known weapon, and a lot of you probably use it, but I almost never see people choosing this weapon for any given mission. I feel like the Brayton Prime is underrated because there are a lot of other weapons in its class that are capable of putting out a lot more damage. The Brayton Prime is status-based, and as much as I love status weapons, a lot of people would argue that crit is king in Warframe, and due to the asinine scaling in this game, it's really hard to argue that point. As such, a lot of people tend to reach for a Soma Prime over Brayton Prime when choosing an assault rifle type weapon for higher end content. Our next weapon was the focus of one of my earlier videos about power creep in Warframe. To some of you that have been playing this game long enough, the Tiburon would be a gun that you'd hang over your fireplace as you sit in front of it and tell your little Grand Tenno about the time you raided that Corpus ship and absolutely shreked everything with it. For those of you that are newer to the game, you may not even know that this weapon exists. This isn't surprising, as with all the new shiny crit and status weapons out there, it's hard to choose a weapon anymore with neither of those characteristics, especially when weapons like Brayton Prime exist. That being said, this weapon is pretty much going to melt anything below level 60 with the right build on it. My hope for the Tiburon is that it gets a Prime version very soon, because it still is a pretty fantastic weapon, both in looks and combat prowess. And besides, who doesn't like the control of a 3-round burst weapon? You guys like lever action weapons, right? Well, you've probably heard of and at least tried the Cerberus or Dex Cerberus, but have you taken a look at the Grimlock? It's basically a Vapor Murloc with a stock attached to it, and it's dope as hell. It even has its own Syndicate mod, which alone is a good reason to use it. I think people might be turned off by the Grimlock because 1, a lot of players don't seem to care for the Grineer aesthetic, and 2, as much as I hate to admit it, the Dex Cerberus pretty much kills this thing in a side-by-side comparison. That being said though, if you use this weapon often, you'll understand what I mean when I say it has a certain kick to it that the Cerberus family of weapons seems to lack. If you haven't given this weapon a shot yet, go ahead and craft one. You might be surprised to find that it's pretty awesome. Moving on now to the 4th entry in our list, you might see this weapon and think, oh man, I remember that one. And you'll probably be using a little bit more after this video because that weapon is the Dragoon, and it's pretty amazing to say the least. To start, the name of this weapon kind of makes me think of that early 2000s JRPG, The Legend of Dragoon. Even though I know the two aren't related and it's not even the same name, but beyond that you'll find that the Dragoon is a massive hulk of a shotgun. It's quite unique compared to other weapons in its class, as it doesn't fire the standard shotgun pellets you'd expect. Instead, it unleashes a massive volley of flak projectiles with each shot. The best thing about this weapon is that you can charge the shot up to decrease the spread and give the weapon innate punch through, allowing these projectiles to bounce all over the damn place and cause some serious damage. For those of you that are hip with Digital Extreme's history as a developer, you probably already know that the design of this weapon borrows heavily from the flak cannon in Unreal Tournament. I feel like this weapon gets overlooked because it can be a little unwieldy to use. The shots have travel time, and the charge on the weapon can be lengthy without the right mods. I will say though that you should definitely try this weapon with a Turbulent Zephyr build, as you can massively increase the travel time of the projectiles. Number 5 on this list is a weapon that I honestly can't say I've ever seen anyone use, but I hear people talk about it all the time. The turret has almost gained a sort of infamy as being a weapon that excels at holding choke points. I feel like this weapon is underrated and maybe doesn't get used a lot because it fills such a specific niche. That being said though, it is capable of dealing massive amounts of damage over time, which, in a game like Warframe, is a mechanic that's a bit too slow for most people, and I can't blame them for feeling that way. I'm not much of a fan of this weapon myself, but I can't deny its destructive power. To put it simply, it works by launching little infected spores that stick to surfaces, and those release a cloud that damages enemies passing through it. Think of it almost like a little mine launcher. If this sounds interesting to you, I highly recommend taking it along on a mission where you have to stand still for a period of time, like mobile defense, excavation, or just regular old defense. If you're feeling cheeky, you can also find a good place to hole up in a survival mission and block the door with this thing. And there you have it, folks, 5 Warframe primary weapons that I think are just a little underrated. Like I said earlier in the video, this list was based purely on my opinion and from what I've seen in my own pickup groups. What I would like to know is what are some primary weapons you guys think are underrated? Anyways, that's gonna do it for me today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to support it with a like, and if you're new here, consider subscribing for more Warframe content. I almost have 3 times as many subscribers as my town has people in it, and I'd really like to be able to put that in quotations on my business cards. But until next time, I'm BouseFeenux. I'll see you guys at the next video, and as always, thank you so much for watching.